Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're definitely pushing the financial ledgers aside. We're strapping into a really unsettling mystery.
Yeah, we're trading, the predictable comfort of a bank teller's cage for, well, the sharp edges of a steak knife.
Exactly, because our deep dive today takes us right into the anatomy of a culinary con, a con that turns fatally bloody.
And it's all happening in the, seemingly quiet, upscale world of Old Town Alexandria, Virginia.
Right, so our sources really center on this narrative involving a woman named Annie Capshaw.
And Annie, she's just made this huge, terrifying, maybe exhilarating decision. She's walked away from 17 years as a bank teller. Pioneer Savings and Loans, solid job.
17 years. And she's supposed to be starting this new life, managing a popular local restaurant, belly washers, dealing with inventory, payroll, normal stuff.
Normal stuff. But instead of balancing books, well, she's immediately facing a pool of blood and a vanished French culinary legend.
It's quite the first day. So this deep dive, it really unspools this sprawling story. We're talking high-stakes scams, identity fabrication.
In a manhunt that bounces all over the place. Alexandria, Arlington, even out to a deadly poker table in Atlantic City.
And it's all rooted somehow in a forgotten debt from a bank robbery years ago. Just layers upon layers.
So our mission today really is to surgically unpack this entire stack of clues. We've got everything from, like, surprisingly cheap seasoned salt
Yeah, the infamous vavoom.
to multiple fake driver's licenses
Mm-hmm.
and even a crucial detail about a prescription for a blood thinner.
We need to uncover the true, hidden identity of this missing celebrity chef.
And crucially, figure out who was hunting him and how their terrible mistake ended up costing an innocent man his life. It's quite a system of deceit we need to unpack.
Okay, so let's start with Annie Capshaw, our protagonist. You really have to get the massive professional risk she was taking here.
She just quit the bank, and the sources say she was filled with jitters and self-doubt.
Understandable, right? Totally.
Mm.
And she's jumping into this new role, full-time business manager of belly washers.
Right, belly washers. It's owned by Jim McDonald, who's also her romantic partner.
He's the chef, the creative force. Got that distinctive Scottish accent.
And Jim, he's kind of her anchor in all this. The source is making clear he's supportive even of her, let's say, slightly unusual hobby.
Her hobby of wanting to investigate a murder or two. As you do.
As you do. Leaving the bank for a, pretty high-risk restaurant venture, especially with a romantic partner, it signals this huge pivot for Annie.
Yeah, like she's moving towards more confidence, maybe self-actualization, especially after we learn a difficult previous relationship.
Right, but this big professional transition, it gets interrupted immediately.
Yeah, the inciting incident happens during one of Jim's cooking classes,
Huh?
which are apparently a big deal.
Very popular. And they're expecting this special guest, Monsieur Jacques Lavoie, a name that in that area meant gourmet food.
Jacques Lavoie. He wasn't just any local vendor, was he?
No. Described as a legend. He runs Tres Bonne Cuisine, this pricey upscale gourmet shop over in Arlington.
And he's got this whole public persona, right? Very vocal, passionate opponent of fast food, shoddy technique.
Exactly. Positioning himself as this guardian of authentic culinary excellence. Mr. French cuisine himself.
And the centerpiece of his brand, his whole image, is this famous seasoning, vavoom.
Ah, yes, Vavoom. Sold at, let's say, a significant markup.
So Jacques is supposed to show up for Jim's class, bring some kitchen gadgets, do his thing.
Hmm?
But he's a no-show.
Yeah, Jim gets pretty agitated because Jacques, despite maybe other flaws we discover, was usually very punctual. It was part of his professional shtick.
Right. So this annoyance, this no-show, it leads Annie and her friend Eve to drive over to Tres Bonne Cuisine.
They're probably thinking he's just delayed or maybe, a supplier issue, something minor.
But what they find, it's instantly terrifying. The door's locked. They manage to get inside, and there it is.
A significant pool of blood right near the cash register.
And the victim. They quickly realize it's Greg, Jacques' assistant.
Described as quiet, considerate. A retired math teacher, actually, from Jefferson High. Apparently, Jacques really valued him for his diligence and, well, his shared love of cooking.
And crucially, the cash register. Untouched. So this wasn't a simple robbery. The killer wasn't after the day's takings.
No. And here's where Annie's specific knowledge, her observation skills, just cut right through the initial confusion. Detective Tyler Cooper arrives. He's the lead homicide detective. And he confirms this really brutal detail. Greg was shot, but in both feet.
Which sounds odd, right? Like maybe an interrogation gone wrong? Or just pure assault, not immediately fatal, you'd think.
You wouldn't think so. But Annie, she immediately has this flashback, something seemingly small from the week before.
She saw Greg picking up a prescription for Coumadin.
Coumadin, a powerful anticoagulant, a blood thinner, often used for people with certain heart conditions.
And suddenly, that detail reframes the entire crime scene.
Completely.
Yeah.
Because now, 2 shots to the extremities, which might normally be survivable, maybe even non-critical.
They become catastrophically fatal.
Yeah.
The blood thinner prevents clotting. He would have bled out incredibly fast.
Which, as Annie realizes instantly, points to 2 chilling possibilities. Either the shooter was completely incompetent, just fired wildly and got tragically unlucky.
Or the shooter knew Greg was on Coumadin and deliberately targeted the feet, knowing it would be a death sentence, a much more calculated, vicious possibility.
Absolutely. And while they're reeling from this, there's the other massive question. Where is Jacques Lavoie?
Right. He actually called the police himself, reported trouble, said someone was in the store, that Greg was in trouble.
But by the time the cops get there, Jacques is gone, vanished, back door wide open, not at the shop, not at his home. Poof.
The main person of interest, maybe the intended target, has just disappeared.
And before they can even fully process that, Annie drops the first real bombshell about this chef's character. Sort of confirms that the foundation of his fancy gourmet empire, it was built on fraud.
The famous expensive Vavoom seasoning. Annie reveals she already knew the secret.
Yeah, it turns out Vavoom is, well, it's nothing more than bulk seasoned salt, the kind you buy really cheap.
Mixed with some standard stuff, right? Garlic powder, dill, lemon pepper, nothing exotic.
Nothing exotic at all.
Yep.
And this gives us this critical insight into, like, the psychology of a professional con artist.
How so?
Well, Jacques, or whoever he is, would pay maybe $10 for a 5-pound bag of this basic salt mix.
Okay.
Then he'd repackage in these little jars, slap his face on the label, that round his apple cheeks caricature they mentioned.
Right, the branding.
And sell it for $12.95 per tiny jar. $12.95.
Wow. So his real genius wasn't cooking, it was marketing.
Exactly. He understood that sophisticated branding, the French name, that public contempt for anything cheap. It could justify this insane markup to a certain kind of customer, the status-conscious gourmet crowd.
So his whole reputation, his legend status, built on a lie involving cheap salt.
Right away, you know this missing chef is, at his core, a high-margin fraudster.
Which immediately makes you wonder, if he'd fake that, what else was fake about Jacques Lavoie? Was the whole French persona just another product he was selling?
And that is the perfect segue into part 2, unmasking the chef.
Yeah.
Because the pressure is definitely on now.
And Jim, he's still dedicated to finding his friend Jacques, but also trying to help Annie settle into her new life.
Right, despite the bloody start.
He asked her to step in and manage Tres Bonne Cuisine while Jacques is missing.
Which puts Annie right in the middle of it all, directly in the vanished chef's orbit.
She accepts. And then she and her friend Eve, they go over to Jacques' rather luxurious home.
Initially, it's for a pretty mundane reason, right? Gather mail, make the house look lived in so burglars don't target it. Just practical stuff when someone disappears.
Exactly, dealing with the practicalities. But this simple administrative task, it turns into a huge investigative breakthrough.
Annie's upstairs, going through Jacques' dresser drawers.
And bingo, she finds a handful of driver's licenses.
Not just one.
Yeah.
Several, from different states, Nevada, Maryland, West Virginia.
All with different names, but all with the same picture. The unmistakable face of Jacques Lavoie.
Boom. Solid confirmation. This isn't just a little fibbing, it's elaborate, systematic identity fraud.
The whole French persona just cracks wide open. There are layers of aliases underneath.
So now the task for Annie is, okay, which one of these is real? Or are any of them real? And which identity belonged to the person the killer was actually looking for?
She starts, logically, by trying to debunk the whole French connection itself. His claimed birthplace, Saint-Angel, France.
A tiny place, he claimed. Population 117. Very specific detail.
So Annie does this brilliant kind of old school thing to check it out.
No easy online search that could be faked. She calculates the time difference, and she calls the local bed and breakfast owner, Monsieur Brun.
That's smart. Why the B&B?
Because in a tiny village of 117 people who knows everything and everyone going back generations, the local innkeeper, they're the hub of all local history and gossip.
Genius. And Monsieur Brun
delivers the verdict, clear as day. He knows everyone in Saint-Angel. Confirms there is absolutely no Lavoie family there. Never has been.
So the accent, the stories, the whole rich French culinary heritage, totally fabricated, probably learned from a book, or maybe, as we start to suspect, somewhere else.
Like maybe prison?
Could be. So now Annie knows Jacques Lavoie is a complete invention. She starts digging into the fake IDs she found. First up, Bill Boxley of Fredericksburg, Virginia.
She tracks down the real Bill Boxley, and rather wonderfully, he turns out to be a Civil War reenactor.
Perfect. And Boxley confirms, yeah, his wallet and license were stolen years ago. But here's the key detail he gives her.
The thief returned the wallet and the credit cards. They only kept the physical driver's license.
Which tells you something, right? The thief wasn't after quick cash or credit.
No, they wanted the ID itself. The state-issued plastic, the template. And Annie confirms how it was done. She takes a sharp paring knife from the gourmet shop. Nice touch.
Using the tools of her new trade?
Exactly. Yeah. And she carefully slices open the fake Bill Boxley license with Jacques' picture on it. And underneath,
the original photo of the real Bill Boxley.
So our con artist was sophisticated enough to somehow lift the lamination or photo layer off a real ID.
But maybe a bit lazy. Just glued his own photo on top, essentially.
Seems like it. Professional enough to steal the identity, maybe a bit amateur in the actual forgery technique.
Okay, so one ID down. Next is Fred Gardner from Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Annie hits downtown. The address on the Gardner license, it's just an empty lot. House that used to be there is gone.
So she does what any resourceful investigator or hungry person would do. Stops for lunch at a local diner, a classic mom-and-pop place.
Counting on local knowledge, local history to fill in the gaps. Smart move.
She asks the waitress, Marianne, about Fred Gardner, supposedly a music teacher.
And Marianne knows the name immediately. Yeah. Oh, yeah, Fred Gardner died 20 years ago.
Dead end, not quite. Because then Annie shows Marianne the photo on the Fred Gardner license, the face of Jacques Lavoie.
And Marianne's face just lights up with recognition. But not for Jacques Lavoie or Fred Gardner.
No, she says that's Norman Applebaum.
Norman Applebaum. William Allen High School, class of '67.
And Marianne's last recollection of Norman, he went off to Las Vegas years ago.
And supposedly came to a bad end out there. Vegas, bad ends. Sounds about right for a con artist.
So there it is. The French culinary legend, Jacques Lavoie, is really Norman Applebaum from Allentown, PA. A guy whose life apparently went sideways into high-stakes, anonymous trouble after high school.
We finally know who he is. But the huge question remains. Why did someone try to kill Norman Applebaum? And how did poor Greg, the math teacher assistant, end up dead instead?
Before we get the answer, the narrative throws in this significant potential red herring.
Ah, yes. Annie runs into her ex-husband, Peter Capshaw.
Who is suddenly, conveniently, very interested in reconciling now that his own second marriage is falling apart. Typical.
And Peter casually mentions that he used to play poker with Greg, the murdered assistant.
But it was just a friendly, penny ante game, right? Really low stakes.
Super low. Peter says the pots were maybe $12.50. Max.
Okay. But he adds this detail that almost throws Annie off. He says Greg, who usually lost, had recently won an unusually large pot in their game.
And someone had even accused him of cheating.
So for a second, you think? Maybe? Could it be related to the game?
But Peter himself, and Annie too, quickly dismiss it. As Peter says, nobody kills someone, especially not like that, over $12. It just doesn't track. Peter also has a solid alibi for the murder night faculty meeting.
Right, so this poker detail, it serves a couple of purposes, doesn't it?
Yeah, first it just adds to the confusion around Greg.
Right.
Why was he involved, even tangentially, in something that led to murder?
And second,
it introduces the theme of gambling. It primes you, the listener, for the much higher stakes that are about to be revealed. Greg's little win was just noise, a coincidence.
The real killer's motive was way, way bigger than $12.50.
Exponentially larger, which sets the stage perfectly for part 3. The true identity and the hunt.
Because Annie and Jim finally find Jacques Lavoie. Or rather, Norman Applebaum.
And his hiding place is almost anticlimactic.
Right. He's been hiding upstairs in the cooking school the whole time, terrified to come out.
So they confront him. And Norman, finally cornered and unmasked, spills everything.
He confirms it all. Yes, he's Norman Applebaum from Allentown. Yes, he's a career con artist. But here's the twist we suspected.
He learned to cook in prison. And apparently he got really, really good at it. Polished, impressive culinary skills, honed behind bars.
And when he got out, he did a sort of market analysis on himself.
Yeah, he basically realized, as he puts it, who's going to take cooking lessons from a guy named Norman from Allentown? Fair point, maybe.
So he manufactured the whole Jacques Lavoie persona, the accent, the fancy shop, the French backstory, all of it.
He admits his past scams were pretty varied, selling repackaged dish soap as magic cleaning fluid, running a fake doctor's excuse racket, classic small-time grifter stuff.
And Tres Bonne Cuisine, the shop, the Vavoom, that was his attempt to go straight, using his real skill, cooking. Just corrupted slightly by the easy money of the seasoning scam.
You know, the creation of Jacques Lavoie is actually this fascinating commentary on identity and perception.
How so?
Norman figured out that the high-end consumer, the foodie crowd, often values perceived foreign sophistication over, say, honest American skill learned in a tough place.
So he put on an expensive costume, essentially, the French chef, to make his genuine, hard-won cooking talent sellable to that specific audience.
Exactly. But the most crucial detail Norman reveals now isn't about his past scams. It's about the killer.
He confirms the killer was absolutely hunting him, Norman, not Greg.
And he knows this because he heard the killer say it.
Yeah.
Just before the shots were fired at Greg, he heard the words, "It's payback time, Norman."
Payback time, Norman. Chillin'.
Confirms Greg's death was a tragic case of mistaken identity. Norman realizes why, too.
The resemblance.
Yeah. He figures the killer mistook Greg for him. Because Greg, the quiet assistant, apparently looked a bit like a younger Norman. Specifically, like Norman's photo in his old high school yearbook.
So the killer's mental image, their target ID, was 20, maybe 30 years out of date. Wow.
Tragic mistake. So now Annie knows who the target was, and she knows the killer used his real name. She needs to figure out what payback means in Norman's world.
She pushes him, gets past the small-time cons, the fake excuses. What did you do, Norman, that deserves this kind of payback?
He's reluctant, but he finally confesses. It involves a poker game, but not the penny ante one Greg played in. A very high-stakes game. Years ago, after he got out of prison.
Okay, so here we need to be really clear because there are like 3 different pots of money floating around in this story.
Right. Let's break it down for you. 1. The penny ante game. Greg's game. Max pot, $12.50. Total red herring for the murder motive. Dismissed.
Okay.
2. The high-stakes poker win. This is Norman's big score. He won a staggering $300,000 in that post-prison game.
300,000. Okay. That sounds like a motive for murder. Who did he win it from?
A notorious high-level gambler named Victor Pasquale. Winning that much off someone like Pasquale definitely seems like a powerful, plausible reason for someone to want revenge. Could be him.
Seems likely, but there's a third thread.
Yeah. 3. The stolen bank robbery stash. This is the hidden layer, the money that actually connects Norman to the killer. It's $150,000.
Wait, where did that come from?
Norman explains the stake money he used for that $300,000 win against Pasquale, which was a hefty $15,000 buy-in.
Yeah.
It didn't come from his dish soap scams or savings. It came from a much darker source.
Okay.
While he was doing time in Nevada, Norman says a fellow inmate, a guy named Howard Fish, was dying. And Fish confessed something to Norman.
What?
The location of $150,000 in cash, hidden under a floorboard near Pyramid Lake, Nevada.
Whoa. Whose money was it?
It was from a bank robbery Fish had pulled off. He was dying, couldn't use it, maybe wanted it found, maybe just unburdening himself. We don't know his motive.
So Norman gets out, finds the stash. $150,000.
How's the stash? Uses $15,000 of Fish's bank robbery money to stake himself in that huge poker game against Victor Pasquale.
Wins the $300,000.
And presumably used the rest of the $150K stash plus his winnings to fund his new life, set up Tres Bonne Cuisine, become Jacques Lavoie.
Okay, my head is spinning slightly. Annie must have been reeling, but she connects the dots fast. She immediately researches Howard Fish, the dead inmate.
And her research confirms it. Fish was in prison for bank robbery. And as you know, bank robberies are rarely solo operations.
He had an accomplice.
Exactly. Howard Fish had an accomplice, a man named Matt O'Hara.
Matt O'Hara. And let me guess, O'Hara just got out of prison.
Bingo. Recently released from prison down in Alabama, and he's looking for his share.
His share of the $150,000 bank robbery money. He thinks Norman owes him payback time.
Precisely. The killer who shot Greg, demanding payback Norman, wasn't Victor Pasquale, the high roller who lost the $300K.
Pasquale probably writes that off as a business expense.
Probably. The killer was Matt O'Hara, Fish's old partner. O'Hara wasn't mad about the money Norman won. He was furious about the original $150,000 he felt Norman stole from him, his cut of the robbery.
So Norman, the con artist, is being hunted not for the sophisticated lies he built the French chef persona,
Nope.
not even for the massive poker winnings he legitimately, if luckily, secured,
Nope.
but for this old, dirty bank robbery money that he just stumbled into by chance and then spent. O'Hara feels Norman owes him half of that original $150.
It's beautifully complex, isn't it? The past always catches up, just maybe not the part of the past you expect.
Okay, so we know the killer is Matt O'Hara. We know the motive is the $150 bank robbery stash. Now we hit part 4, the showdown and resolutions.
And it actually begins with a necessary detour. They still need to be 100% sure about Victor Pasquale. He's a dangerous guy. Losing $300 could still make someone snap.
Right, can't leave that loose end. So Annie, Jim, Eve, and Norman, now in disguise.
Ah, yes, the disguise. Apparently a truly terrible, dark, shaggy wig and a glued-on mustache. Very inconspicuous.
Huh. They all troop off to Atlantic City. They need to get eyes on Pasquale, get a feel for him, see if he seems like a guy holding a murderous grudge over that poker game.
And this scene, you have to appreciate the stakes here, especially for Eve, Annie's best friend.
What does she do?
She puts up $25,000 of her own money, pawns jewelry, even apparently the dog's rhinestone collar.
Doc the dog. No.
Yes. Just to get a seat at the high-stakes poker game where Pasquale was playing. That's friendship.
Yeah.
And serious risk. She becomes a real active participant here.
Wow. How does she do?
Surprisingly well. Or maybe she's just incredibly charming. The sources say she sort of dazzles the table with her southern manners, holds her own, maybe even wins back her stake.
Good for Eve.
Yep.
But the main goal was Pasquale.
Right. And observing him, Annie and Jim quickly realize Pasquale isn't their guy. He's rich, yes, notorious, yes, but he treats the gambling loss, even $300 K
Like chump change.
Exactly. It's just the cost of doing business in his world. His reaction is disappointment, maybe annoyance, but not the kind of simmering, decade-long vengeance that leads to shooting people in the feet.
Okay, so Victor Pasquale is officially, safely, ruled out. He's not the killer.
Yeah. But the Atlantic City trip isn't exactly smooth sailing. O'Hara is also there. He's been tracking Norman relentlessly.
He finds them.
Yep. Tries to grab Norman right there in the casino lobby. A kidnap attempt.
Chaos. How do they stop him?
It's actually a combination. Annie lets out this incredibly high-pitched scream, apparently, and the dog, Doc the dog, just barking ferociously.
Good boy, Doc.
And Jim manages to physically repel O'Hara. So the kidnapping fails, but wow, the threat level just escalated dramatically. O'Hara is desperate and close.
Okay, so O'Hara's failed in AC. He must be furious. He tracks Annie and Eve back to Virginia.
Right. Norman, meanwhile, is trying to dip his toe back into normalcy. He's actually doing a cooking demonstration at a food show, trying to be Jacques Lavoie again, maybe.
And Annie and Eve are there, too.
Yeah, they're looking for a replacement mandolin slicer, of all things. They go to see another vendor, a guy named Claude Brooking.
Okay.
They find Claude in the back bedroom of his RV, which doubles as his office at the show. He's dead, murdered.
Oh, no. O'Hara again. Why Claude?
O'Hara killed him. Apparently, O'Hara mistakenly thought Claude was another one of Norman's associates, someone helping him hide. Another tragic mistake. Claude was just in the wrong place. O'Hara bashed him over the head.
And now O'Hara has Annie and Eve.
Exactly. He takes them hostage right there inside Claude's RV.
This is bad. What does O'Hara want now?
He's desperate. He demands the money. A big drop-off near the Washington Monument. 6 a.m. the next morning. He takes Annie's phone.
But does she get a message out?
Just barely.
Yeah.
A quick fragmented warning to Jim and Detective Cooper, who, luckily, were already staking out the food show because they suspected O'Hara might show up there.
Okay, so Jim and the cops know something is wrong, but Annie and Eve are still hostages. This leads to the escape, right?
Yes, and it's a moment that really shows how far Annie has come. From bank teller to, well, this.
O'Hara's tied them up with duct tape.
Tightly. She's trapped. But then she spots something nearby. A forgotten corkscrew cheese grater combo tool.
A cheese grater? How does that help?
She doesn't try to brute force the tape. She uses the sharp, jagged edges of the grater they mention. It's one of those ultra-coarse, photo-etched steel ones.
Ouch.
Yeah, it's painful. Slices her finger badly. But she just furiously scrapes and saws away at the heavy-duty duct tape until she cuts through her bindings.
Using a kitchen tool, a symbol of her new culinary world, to free herself. That's pretty neat.
Isn't it? So she gets free, quickly frees Eve, and they bolt from the RV.
They know O'Hara's heading for the Washington Monument for the money drop.
So they run that way, too. And just as O'Hara approaches the drop site, Jim and Detective Cooper, who are already lying in wait...
They see Annie and Eve running towards them.
Exactly. O'Hara spots them, too, realizes the cops are there. He grabs Annie, uses her as a human shield, waving his knife, screaming threats.
Oh, God. What does Jim do? Cooper must have told him to stay back.
He probably did.
Yeah.
But Jim sees Annie in danger, and he just reacts, pulls this brilliant flanking move, comes up behind O'Hara.
And tackles him.
Tackles him hard, takes him down. Cooper's instantly there, gun drawn. O'Hara gives up. It's over.
He's arrested. The murders of Greg, the assistant, and Claude Brooking, the poor vendor, solved. All traced back to O'Hara and that $150,000 bank robbery stats.
Finally. And with O'Hara caught, the narrative shifts to tying up all the personal and professional loose ends, which is really important for Annie's whole journey.
Right. First, what happens to Norman Applebaum, a.k.a. Jacques Lavoie?
Well, legally, he's on the hook. He has to figure out how to repay that $150,000 in stolen bank money. That's a huge financial hit.
But there's an upside.
A massive, unexpected upside. The media goes wild with the story, right? The con artist who learned gourmet cooking in prison.
The public eats that up.
Totally.
Yeah.
So, ironically, the exposure he feared his whole life, it actually boosts his celebrity status. People are fascinated.
It's like redemption through authenticity almost. His biggest secret is out, and people like the real story more.
Exactly. The fear is gone. His passion for Tres Bonne Cuisine is validated. He built a lie, yes, but the skill he gained was real. And now he can finally pursue his cooking openly. As himself, Norman, the ex-con chef sensation.
Amazing. Okay, what about Peter, the ex-husband still sniffing around?
Annie shuts that down. Firmly. There's this powerful moment where she just tells him, straight up, "I'm over you, Peter. I'm in love with Jim."
Clean break. Good for her. Shows how much she's changed.
Totally seals that shift. From the cautious banker, maybe emotionally dependent, to this bold, assertive woman in control of her own future.
And finally, Annie and Jim. How does their story resolve?
Jim reinforces his commitment. And it's not with, like, flashy jewelry or grand gestures.
No, what then?
He presents her with a gallon can of paint.
Paint.
Specifically, Simplicity Beige paint. For his house.
Simplicity Beige. Okay, that's
Fun
symbolic.
shit.
Deeply symbolic, I think. He's offering her stability, permanence. He's literally inviting her to paint the foundation of their future together. It cements the end of her looking back at Peter, the end of her second-guessing her life choices.
Beige. Like calm, safe, neutral ground after all the chaos.
Exactly. The calm security he offers after the absolute storm of this investigation.
Wow. What an incredible winding path this investigation took. I mean, you think about it.
Yeah.
We started with a guy shot in the feet.
Yeah.
And ended up connecting it through massive identity fraud, fake French accents, cheap seasoned salt.
High stakes poker, low stakes poker.
All the way back to a decades-old bank robbery near Pyramid Lake, Nevada, and a tragic case of mistaken identity based on an old high school yearbook photo.
The synthesis required from Annie. It's just stunning. She had to pull together criminal history, marketing fraud, medical knowledge. Incredible.
And what really stands out when you look at the whole thing is this theme of identity, right? How powerful it is, but also how fragile. Absolutely. And the role of chance. Norman Applebaum spends years meticulously building this Jacques Lavoie persona. The French chef, the gourmet expert. He believed in it. It was his shield, his path to success, and maybe happiness.
He was successful? He had the shop, the reputation?
He did. But his past caught up to him. And not even the past, he was actively hiding the French lie. It was an older past, a debt linked to money he just stumbled upon by accident.
And his whole constructed life was nearly destroyed because his assistant happened to look a bit like his 20-year-old self in a photo. One terrible chance resemblance.
Makes you think, doesn't it? About our own lives.
How so?
Well, it raises this question for you, the listener. Think about the things that make up your stability, your success, your career, your reputation, where you live.
Okay.
How much of that persona is maybe constructed or dependent on lucky breaks, on chance occurrences? And what would happen if the very foundation of that persona, maybe a key piece of information you keep private, a lucky investment, even a job you got years ago, what if that was suddenly revealed to be a secret link? A link to a dangerous past that knows your real name, not just the name you use now.
That is a truly provocative thought. What hidden connections might unravel everything? Something to definitely mull over.
Indeed. Consider the safety, or perhaps the illusion of safety, surrounding your own identity.
Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into the wild world of culinary cons, mistaken identities, and deadly secrets surrounding Norman Applebaum.
Until next time.